I wanted to start out today by doing a little activity. It's going to be short, I promise. But basically, I've realized in the last couple weeks, it's a really dark time for a lot of us. And I think that's what we're going through, both with the sunlight getting dimmer and dimmer every day, and all of the holiday chaos, and all of the things we have to do for work and friends, and like all of the obligations. I've just seen a lot of people in my life, and myself included, just having kind of like a tough time in the last couple of weeks. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and hold space for it. So we're going to do a brief 1-minute holding space meditation this morning before we get started into our topic. And I move things around a little bit, so if you're wondering like why is she starting the intro with holding space, I'm going to get into that later. But really it is because like it has been coming up so much, and this week it was just kind of in my face, learning a new level of holding space for myself and others. And I want to share this brief meditation with you. So if you feel comfortable in the audience, if you want to close your eyes and plant your feet firmly on the ground if you're sitting, or if you're lying down, that's okay too. Just find a comfortable position. And take a few breaths. And allow your mind to quiet. And just focus on the breath. And as we focus on the breath, we notice that there's other things coming into our mind. Maybe there are worries, maybe it's excitement for the upcoming holidays. Whatever is coming into your mind, let it be and hold space for it. The breath is always good to connect to, and it's helpful to focus on. However, sometimes it's good to just let our thoughts be and not try and change them, move them, anything. And just hold space for yourself exactly as you are right now. Like crazy monkey mind and everything, like rock it. Hold space for what comes up in the present. And then find space for it with kindness and love. And when you're ready, you can come back to the room and open your eyes. Thank you for participating in that if you did. It's kind of funny, meditation. We want to like quiet our mind and not have all the chatter, but really meditation is about a little bit like the process we just went through, holding space for yourself with what is coming up for you and not trying to avoid it or, change it into something else, but just being with it and recognizing it for what it is. And ideally without too much attachment. That's the meditation piece is, becoming unattached to those thought processes instead of being so like, those thoughts are me, I'm my thoughts. So holding space for ourselves and whatever comes up in the present moment can be really challenging and difficult for people. I'm going to get into that in today's show. So welcome to the show. I'm Jessica Disbrow, licensed social worker and registered psychotherapist in the state of Colorado. I'm also the founder and primary therapist of Higher Consciousness Healing. We're an innovative mental health practice in Lakewood, Colorado, offering community building, free online education, and individual and group services. We also specialize in working with youth and millennials. If you want more information about our practice, definitely check us out on the web at www.higherconsciousnesshealing.org. Right now you're watching our live video blog We air every Saturday, 10 a.m. Mountain Time. So welcome. Definitely feel free to ask questions and make comments during the show. There is a little bit of a delay with YouTube Live, Facebook Live. And I want to make sure that if something's important, I'll try and bring it up at the end. So we're not kind of waiting for questions at the very end. All right, last week we talked about being our authentic selves in relationships and all of the complications that go along with that. Now I was going to talk about communication because I think it's really important. And I went back and forth over the last couple of weeks trying to be like, do I want to talk about holding space first or communication first? Because you kind of have to hold space in order to communicate, but communication's so important, and then you hold space for communication. Anyway, we're doing holding space first. And I think it's where it needs to be. So what does holding space really mean, and what does that look like? Well, typically when we refer to holding space, we're referring to when someone's upset and we hold space for that, for them to be however they are in that moment with compassion and love. How do we do that? What does that actually look like more in depth? The first and most important thing when it comes to holding space is it's really about being present. And for a lot of us, that's really hard because so many of us are stuck in our heads, thinking and feeling our thoughts and being attached to them. And it's hard for us to be present with what is, accepting what is, and everything that's around us and outside of us. That's just how our brain is wired. That's just the programming that we're coming with. And I found personally that it's easier to be present with someone who is having a really hard time because we kind of, or at least for me, go into more of a selfless zone. We're really here to listen and be compassionate to the other person. And when there's intense emotions involved, sometimes we can really step up. Now, some people don't, for a variety of reasons. So being present is just really important, and doing that for yourself first can be really helpful, like that activity we did at the beginning. Active listening is definitely a key part of holding space, and again, really being present. These overlap a little bit, but I just think it's really important to bring up the active listening piece and really processing what they're saying and really allowing it to be what it is without judgment. Using compassion and empathy can be really, really helpful when we're trying to hold space for others and really understanding where they're coming from in that moment. Because sometimes people can freak out in no time, a second, and they've gone from 0 to 100, and we're like, whoa, I don't even understand what's going on with this person. So it becomes harder to hold space when we don't understand what's going on. So by knowing that, we can take a second to say, okay, whoa. Instead of getting upset that this other person went from 0 to 100 in no time and having my own reaction towards that, I'm going to take a step back and try and understand where they're coming from and try and listen to what they have to say and really holding that space for them. Now, allowing others' self-determination is another really, really key part to holding space. And what does self-determination mean? Well, we love to use it in the social work field, which I am a part of as a social worker in mental health. Allowing someone their own self-determination means that they are the they know their life better than you, and they know what they want and need better than you. And even though it might seem like they're not making the best decisions, we have to allow them to make those decisions for themselves and to learn those lessons. We can't do it for them. And it's really empowering when we do give the other person the opportunity to really step up in their life without problem solving for them, without enabling them, and really let go. Another thing that I want to mention about being present, about holding space, is it really does kind of go back to being present. These are very nuanced pieces, and holding space is just, it's an intuitive process. And so it's hard to explain to other people how to be intuitive with themselves, because it's kind of something that we all have to learn how to do on our own, if that makes sense. But learning to really be with what's in the room and not trying to change it or fix it or do anything like that. Now, I'm going to go through some things that makes it really hard to hold space for each other and and I've mentioned some of them, but I wanted to break it down even further because I think it's so important to address the challenges and obstacles that get in the way of holding a nice, compassionate, loving, understanding, accepting space for someone where we don't have to fix them and we don't have to do anything but just be. Well, really, what makes it the most hard is that a lot of us have programmed reactions to people being upset. And usually that's always wired when we're young, especially if we have families that don't acknowledge and express their feelings in a healthy way. Let's say mom is really upset at dad because dad came home and he was in a really bad mood and she had made him dinner and he didn't want to eat it and he just wanted to turn on the TV and drink a beer or something, right? And the kid sees this going on, and all of these people are upset with each other and they're not managing it well, and one person's reacting to the other person. Now mom's screaming at dad like, you never blah, 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 fill in the blanks. There's so many things that couples fight about. And those are our models for our relationships early on. So then when people get upset and our brain says, okay, this is similar to this other program that I saw in the past, so I'm going to trip up that response. And this is happening on an unconscious level, and we don't even know. So now, our partner goes from 0 to 100 in no time at all, and that reminds us of our families. Then we're reacting to them, and we're like, why are you so upset? You were fine a minute ago. This really isn't a big deal. Why are you overreacting? Like, all the things, It's why holding space can be hard and complicated for people. The other flip side of that is that we have a hard time holding space for ourselves. Really hard time holding space for ourselves and allowing ourselves to feel and be with all those emotions without trying to problem solve or fix or feel better. So it really is twofold: learning how to hold space for ourselves and learning how to hold space for others. And while it seems like it's the same thing, it's actually, I believe, two different processes, because one's more internal and one's more external. One's more self and one's more relational. Another thing that makes it really hard is fear and judgment about what the other person's going through. You might have fears around what might happen to them if they do or don't do this. You might fear them just being upset. That might be really fearful for you because maybe they're acting angry, and maybe now you're having fearful reactions because they're like, oh gosh, this person's angry. Take care of ourselves when we're conversing with people who are upset. Make our best judgments. Not the moral kind of judgments, but the kind of judgments that, like, is this a safety concern judgment? Another thing that makes it really hard to hold space, and gosh, parents are like just there. They love to go here. They love to go here. Enabling behaviors make it really hard to hold space. And what do I mean by enabling? Well, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. We want to make someone feel better. We want to solve their problem. We don't want them to be suffering. However, we really, 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 really can't do those things for other people. We can show support, maybe make a suggestion, maybe like one, because if someone's upset, they might not be in the place to hear it, but other people have to solve their own problems. And when we enable, and especially when we enable children, even small children, we are setting them back because now they need us to make those decisions. And that's just not a good road to go down at all. So when we're consoling someone who's upset, it's not good to give advice. It's not good to try and problem solve. All those things have enabling characteristics, and we just have to let other people have their emotions and have their moment without trying to fix it, without trying to make them feel better. Just being with them and holding the space is powerful and transformative. It really, really is. If you've ever been in the presence of someone who can hold space for you, or you have held good space for others, you'll know what I'm talking about. And if you are in the audience and you haven't had a lot of people hold really good, compassionate space for you, I'd really recommend therapy. This is what therapists do. We hold space for our clients in this really beautiful way that we've been trained to. And that's the transformative part of therapy. One of the many is that when we are in that position where we're upset and we're reaching out to somebody, if someone can hold space for us, that feels amazing. It's like, oh my God, I get to just be me and have whatever freak out I'm having, and this person isn't gonna make it about them. That's great. So if you are in need of someone to listen to, everybody needs somebody to lean on. Really, really, really. And I've personally been there in that really dark place where I felt like I didn't have anybody, and I didn't know where to turn and who was going to help me. So doing that work on ourselves and having that love for ourselves to then go out and have someone hold space for us and reach out, because that's a scary process too. It can just get better from there, and it gets better and better and better. That wraps up today's episode. Next week, I am going to talk about open and direct, nonviolent communication tactics. If you have any questions or comments, I didn't see any come up during the show, but now would be your last time to try and get those in there before we jet. I did want to make an announcement about a New Year's challenge that we have coming up in January. This is our 32nd episode at this point, and I thought it would be a really fun time to rewatch all of the episodes back to back. So for the month of January, I'll be posting on Facebook on the Higher Consciousness Healing page a new episode every day. Not a new episode, but a rerun episode every day. So January 1st, the first episode will air early in the morning. January 2nd, the second episode will air. And people can go on each day and rewatch the episodes, kind of like a marathon. Get your January really started out right. Get some really good quality information. We really connect the dots between mental health, our spirituality, and science in a really unique way. I haven't heard this information presented from anybody else. I really do think it's unique. So join us. There'll be some gifts, prizes involved. So people who watch all 31 videos in 31 days. I'll send you a book from the show of your choice, things like that. It's going to be fun. So, all right. Thank you for the comment. That is a nice compliment. I don't see any questions about our topic, so I'm going to wrap up. I do want to say, now that the show has been going, if there's any topics that you'd like me to cover in future episodes, I'm definitely open to that. There's a lot more things I'll be talking about and want to share, but I feel like the first 30-ish episodes were really like foundational, and we'll be diving into other stuff that will be related, but I'm feeling good about what we've been accomplishing so far, and I hope you are too. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful weekend and take care.